Yeah, so I agree. So I think it is somewhere related to the job and soft skills probably is one of the very important factors to get a good job or to become a successful person. So moving to the next question, which is the reason I'm asking this question because this question definitely came from a couple of audience also, but this is my personal experience also. So when I went to IIT Gandhinagar, I was from Hindi medium background from a small town, and there is one perception immediately as soon as I landed at IIT Gandhinagar, one perception I created that if you are good in speaking, if you can communicate well, then you are inborn leader. And that's somehow that misconception or misinterpretation about the soft skills was with me almost for a year. I was avoiding participating in a lot of activities, which are definitely important to develop some soft skills. So my question is, if your native language or maybe the language in which you studied till 12th, which is different from your university language. University language could be English or maybe Hindi, but if you are from a South India, then you may face issue with the Hindi also. So if your university language is different from your uh, schooling language, then and then how we can like sort of avoid creating any perception that that person is already a good leader. So how to tackle that issue? This is more for the freshers, but in general, that is one issue which we face very strongly.
Right. Uh, I'll tell you my experience. You know, when I joined as a student in IIT Kanpur, that's like almost years ago, I was in a very strange situation. I'd come from a Hindi medium school, but I had come from a metro town. I was from Delhi. Okay. Now, if you look at IIT of that era, there were, you know, of course, people will form their own groups, and there were many small groups, large groups, and so on. But you could divide the student community largely in two groups. One group was which were from these big cities. They had come from, you know, these English medium schools. They would speak to each other only in English and all that kind of stuff, right? And then there was this other group which was talked in regional language. You know, Kanpur would have a majority of people speaking in Hindi, but there was a Bengali group, there was a Telugu group, and there was, of course, a very large Hindi group. Right? Now, these regional groups, they were very, very suspicious of anybody coming from big cities, because they ought to be English speaking, right? So I was like, hey, what do? I don't belong to either of the two groups. And therefore, I can tell you it led to a lot of pain. I mean, the first semester at IIT Kanpur was a lot of pain because there was very few people whom I could talk to, who would be willing to have a conversation with me. Now, there were two aspects of not knowing enough English. One was, you know, understanding lectures. I think that's absolutely critical. You need to be able to very quickly go up the ramp and say, you know, at least understanding English to that extent, right? And the other thing was, hey, I'm here to enjoy, I'm here to interact with people, I'm here to, you know, talk to everybody and need to do something about that. Okay. So the first part that, you know, how do you quickly ramp up your English? And particularly, I was only poor in spoken and understanding English. I was good at, you know, reading, and my grammar was good. That. So I didn't have as much, you know, lack of privileges, if you wish, as many others had. So first I will say, how do I dealt with the English part? So in those days, we used to have this movie, English movies, like twice a week or something, right? Every day there will be one movie shown in the campus in our largest lecture hall, and we will go and watch those movies. So, but 2 days a week, there will be English movies. So, and every movie had two shows. One would be approximately 6 to 9. The other would be like 9:30 to 12:30. Okay. I would go at the first show, not understand anything, sit there for 2 hours, come back, and, you know, I'm sitting in the mess having dinner, and somebody who I think would have gone to the movie and understood the movie, I'll ask him for the storyline, right? So I'll get the storyline, and then I'll go back to the next show, and this time I'll understand a little bit. And, you know, after 2-3 weeks, I could understand enough spoken English that I was doing okay in the lectures.
Right.
So that part was like, I think I see students today coming from regional backgrounds who give up very soon, who say, oh, I got stuck in the wrong place. I think it's possible to pick up language to at least this much extent very quickly, 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, and one should never give up on things. One should just keep trying. But the talking to others was a much bigger problem, because that was not just about whether you can speak or not speak. It is really about what they have framed you as. You are, I mean, from the perspective of an English-speaking crowd, you are a bhaiya, and from the Hindi-speaking crowd, you are a Sood. You are from like some big city, right?
Right.
So again, I had to solve this problem somehow, and I think this may help others solving this problem, because so I said the only way people will talk to me is if I am useful to them. And now, how can I possibly be useful to them? So one thing I was very, very good at was maths. So could I be talking to my colleagues, I mean, my batchmates, my wingmates, and say, hey, you don't know how to solve that assignment that has been given to you, I'll help you out, right? But that you could do only for a few people, right? So
Right.
people will start talking to you because they see you as a helpful person. Right? The real thing happened when I said, after one semester, there was this reading room in our hostel which was closed for years. Nothing was really happening. And I went to my cultural secretary and I said, I want to start that reading room. And my interest was, I was very, very keen on reading newspapers and magazines and so on. I couldn't afford many of them to be subscribed by me personally. Therefore, I wanted the hostel to have that. And this guy initially said, look, I don't have money, I don't have budget, we cannot open this. Now, then you think out of box. So I said, give me budget for just 1 month and I'll run it for 1 year. I'll see how to make money out of this, right? So he says, how is this even possible? I mean, you will come back to me after 1 month and say, these are the cost of the magazine, this is the cost of whatever, and you'll keep asking money. I said, no, just refuse me next month, give me this month, right? So I got all the magazines, I started subscribing to newspapers and stuff. And now the 1 month is getting over, and is this reading room going to be closed or is it going to continue, right? So we thought about how to raise money. And, those days, if you have Filmfare or Cineblades or one of those magazines, it will have a center spread of typically, a heroine who is popular in those days. And then you say, okay, I'm going to sell this poster, right? And, then you think about how you can maximize your earnings through selling this poster. Remember, this magazine is costing you 5 rupees. If you sell this poster for 3 rupees, 3.5 rupees, it's not going to be enough to buy the next magazine. In any case, there are other magazines like India Today that you want, which doesn't have any posters to sell. So you really need that this, this 5 rupee magazine, it needs to be sold for at least 20 rupees for you to run this reading room next month. Right? So the way you can do that is not just the middle spread, but there are other full page photographs. So you take out these 3 or 4 photographs from the magazine. People have already read it. It's already 2 weeks old, right? And you say you don't have to pay me cash. Whatever you want to pay for this, it will be added to your mess bill. People don't want to pay cash, right? I mean, so you have this. Let's say there is a Jayaprada photograph. You hold that auction after the first show of a Jayaprada movie. Right? I can tell you I've sold a poster which was there in a magazine for 5 rupees for 25 rupees, right? I mean, the guy could have gone and picked up that magazine himself for 5 rupees. But no environment where there is a competitiveness between wings and you're saying, I don't need, I will add this to your mess bill. You could do anything. And this, for the rest of 1 year, I ran that club, that reading room. Okay. Immediately that sends a message out that I'm a useful person. Yeah. So, I mean, your may be different, you may have done different things, but you need to do something which people recognize you as a useful person. And if you are useful, then language will not be a barrier. People will talk to whichever language. After all, I knew little bit of English, they knew little bit of Hindi. It's not that we can't speak to each other, right? So I think my take is people, backgrounds where the language is different. First of all, try to learn the language, And secondly, and then keep trying, don't give up. And secondly, try to see what you can do to kind of make an impression on a set of people. And these impressions will take you far in terms of friendships. Okay.
Right, right. So I think you rightly pointed out 3-4 points on this entire exercise, which you were doing unintentionally. It was not very well planned, but you were doing. So one thing, very important thing you pointed out, even this also came out of our CMI survey, which we conducted almost 3-4 years back. And perseverance was very important point, which you clearly mentioned. You should not give up. As a BTech students, we are tend to give up very easily. But I think that is very important perspective to keep going. Similarly, the entire idea of selling this auction and everything was very innovative, and you took one initiative to start this club. I think these are very important things. So even I also had similar experience. So I can see, at least with their experience, with my limited experience, these things still works. So if you are uh, facing any language barrier or anything, so instead of giving up, keep trying something new, take initiative, engage with different activities. It will definitely help. So I think it was this entire thing was my second part of this question: how to fill the gap. Kind of, let's say, if you're from a small town, you always have something different. Like people who comes from a village or a small town, they are very have a jugadu nature, right? So instead of creating that gap or creating that groupism, I would say, how we can encourage students who are from cities to come together and maybe uh, be, instead of having like one and one separately, how we can make 1+1 2, and encourage this culture of, instead of saying that this guy doesn't know this particular language or particular skill set, how we can come together and maybe fill the gap. So that is one couple of ideas if you can share on this thing.
Sure, sure. So I think you rightly said that everybody who is coming to an engineering college, they are not identical people, right? Everyone would have their own strengths and their own weaknesses.
Right.
Now, some of the, so to assume that the particular strength that you have, if somebody doesn't have, he's in some sense inferior to you, doesn't take you anywhere.
Right.
In fact, if you have recognized his or her strength and made friends and work together, it would take you far. Now, one thing is you can keep saying this, in the orientation program, the director can give a big speech and say, please treat everybody equal, everybody has these special skills, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that really cuts the ice. I think what IIT Gandhinagar does, and we tried this last year in PEC as well, is this 5-week of induction program that you have, and we did that about I think 3 weeks in PEC last year, where everybody has to do everything. So it's not that you are good at music, so you'll only do music. Because one of the things that I found in many engineering colleges is when these clubs start looking for new recruits from the first year, it is essentially, okay, dance, then you join dance club, music, you join music club, programming, you join programming club. I didn't come to college to just strengthen my skills. I came to college to learn new skills. And if I'm weak in something, but I'm passionate about something, I should be given a chance to do that, right? So I think something like this 5-week induction program that you have is wonderful, because everybody does everything. Everybody is on the sports ground, playing multiple sports in those 5 weeks. Everybody is on different workshops, whether it is, arts or music or whatever, right? So therefore you get a chance to really find out your own interests. And within 5 weeks, you would have done something small, and then, even your seniors could look at it and say, hey, if in these 5 weeks, with just a few sessions, he could do something better, let's give him a chance. Now, not every college will be able to do that. Therefore, it could even be kind of legislated in the first year or first semester, everybody has a right to go to every club. If the club is being supported by the institute, then the institute must have such policies that anybody can really join anything. And if you really don't have resources to handle a very large crowd, you may say after 1 year, I will have selection, right? So that at least in second, third, fourth year, I will have limited number of people. But first year, at least, we should be allowing everybody. On the other hand, I think from a student perspective, it's always a good idea to explore multiple things. Again, people kind of feel shy of doing things, right? So they want to leverage their strengths, but not build on new interests. So that can only be through counseling, through mentoring. There should be a formal process of mentoring and counseling in every college, where you meet your mentor and this guy keeps asking you these kinds of questions, like what new you are doing after coming to college, right? And encourage, and there should be no space for any kind of discouragement, right? So on one hand, you encourage the new students, saying you should try new things. And on the other hand, you should legislate that if somebody wants to try a new thing, then they have a right to try a new thing, particularly those things which are being funded by the college. So a mix of these two will allow you to see, people coming together. And I think people who are coming from disadvantaged background, I'm not just looking at people who come from rural background. Disadvantages could be multiple, it could be financial or whatever.
Right.
Again, the mentors have a very big responsibility towards it. Unfortunately, most colleges don't have an appropriate program for these things. I mean, even if I look at counseling service or its equivalent in this thing, you meet your faculty mentor, once a semester, you meet your student guide a few times, and typically everybody is really interested in what courses have you registered, are you doing okay, what was your marks in quiz 1. I think we also need training for these mentors or advisors, saying, look, adjustment in a college is not just about marks in a quiz. Adjustment is also about, do you feel comfortable? Are you exploring, things? Are you trying new things, etc.? Are you doing, your time management is okay? In fact, there is a lot of research which shows that the most stressful period of your life, statistically speaking, is the first year of college. The transition from school to college is really the most difficult transition that you go through, right? And that is when you really need a whole lot of advice. So we really need good mentoring, good advising in our colleges in the first year. That is the only way we will be able to include everybody into larger scheme of things and not become part of the politics or groups or things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's you rightly pointed out. This first year is really challenging because of the transition, and so we call it from kids you will become adult. So that's the one of the most important transition happened during first year. So I think next question is I'm not sure whether it is how much it is directly related to soft skills, but this is one question I think many people ask, and I named it challenge of being anti-popular and what it means. So like, and this is not for students. So even sometimes as a employee, as a team lead, I face this challenge. Sometimes because I know this is the right thing, but people may not like it, right? Then I pull back myself, right? And then I go more into chalta hai jaane do, kya farak padta hai, right? So, but that is not a right thing, right? So, what is one soft skill people should learn, or maybe I would say, how do you manage such situation? Because I know as a institute leader, you are running an institute which is almost 100 years old. So there are some legacy, but you have to match that legacy with the vision for the future. So how do you manage such situation? How you avoid, so how you manage the anti-popular sentiment?
It's a good word I learned, anti-popular. Now, I think, first of all, what is most important is that you should have the confidence that what you're thinking is true. Okay, I mean, is this possible? Is this something that ought to be told to people and all that, right? It may not be the only truth in the world. You're not the smartest person on earth, or whatever. But you should have the confidence that this is not so completely idiotic that I will keep it to myself. I will not speak it to anybody else, right? That confidence you should have. And I think that confidence comes from trying to do many things. Okay?
Right.
Again, to give example from my own life, before 2008, so in 2006, I traveled around the country and I went to a large number of engineering colleges. And, I would give multiple talks in those places. I'll talk to faculty, I will talk to students, I'll talk to the leadership, deans, director, vice chancellor, etc. Try to understand what's wrong with Indian education system and so on. And what I noticed was that at the end of the day, so used to have a full day schedule in every college, and the last meeting would be with the faculty of computer science department. And in that meeting, invariably, I'll make one or two very small suggestions of how they can improve the quality of computer science education without any extra resource, whether in terms of faculty or money or building or whatever. Within the current resources, how can they improve, their quality of education? But I would make this statement at the end of the day, and I'm not going to meet them again. It's easy to make those statements, and I wasn't sure of myself, right? So I started writing about them. I didn't start a blog at that time. I don't know whether Blogger existed, but I would definitely write those things and put it up on my personal website, in the Department of Computer Science at IITK, and people will read and people will send me emails and so on and so forth. And most of the emails or most of the comments on them were, these are completely impractical. You have no idea. And this was a little strange because I'm the one who is roaming around the country. I'm the one who's talked to, in those days, maybe thousands of faculty members and tens of thousands of students. To say you don't know the ground situation, while these guys who have never gone out of their office know the ground situation, it was very strange, but still, this is the kind of feedback you're getting. Now, in 2008, when the board of LNMIT approached me and said, would you be interested in becoming director here? I was like, hey, I'm only 43 years of age. I mean, do you really want to make somebody director at that age? But whatever, I did become the director. And then I started implementing some of those things which I was writing about. And that's how and many of those things were really liked by everybody. I think we had hugely positive feedback in the college and outside the college. And that's probably what made me a little bit kind of known to people in my peer group, even outside LNMIT. So I think after that, I didn't have to look back, and I now, whatever ideas that I have, at least I have the confidence that they may be wrong. I'm not saying that everything I think about is right, but they are not so idiotic, that I don't even want to say it in front of people. Right? So that confidence you should have, and that confidence will come by trying out a few things. Right? The second thing is, once you have decided that, this is an idea that you want to share with people, it is always a good idea to share with a few people who can give you advice before you talk to a larger group. Because, you see, why are people opposed to those ideas? There could be multiple reasons for it. Some could be, they have better data, they know this is not going to work, or they have better experience, they can think better than you, right? But a lot of times it is simply a matter of wrong perceptions. Or just, I don't want to, Newton's third law of motion, no, first law of motion, right? Whatever is happening just will keep happening that way, change anything, right? So once you know what the opposition is about, and I'm not using the opposition in a negative connotation, it's just, a healthy discussion, right? Then you would be able to come up with arguments. So either it will convince you that, yeah, in this context, in this place, it will not work, or it will prepare you for a better discussion, when you come up with a larger. So you should be very well prepared. If the issue is that there is a perception that, this will lead to something wrong, can you have data from places which have implemented that and show this data in a meeting. Often there is a perception of that institute itself that, if I do this, then, so for example, in Kanpur, when we wanted to make the branch change very liberal, right? Immediately the opposition is going to be, oh, this is going to cause so many people to take branch change that some of the unpopular departments will have 0 students.
Right.
Now, if this is the opposition likely to be, then you standing up in Senate and saying, no, this will not make it 0, and the other guy saying, yes, it will make it close to 0. Now, there is no discussion after that. So what you can do is you can say, okay, let me go through the last few years and data, and if this was the rule applicable to those years, how many more branch changes would have happened? Once you have that data, then you can go to Senate and say, hey, your fears are unfounded. Right now we are doing 40 branch changes. We will only do 50, 55, which is, within situation is controllable. It's not that, you're going to get 0, right? So, and sometimes they will have opposition, which you can say, okay, since you don't like this thing completely, maybe we can have partially, we can have some limitations, we can put some restrictions. So we can do somewhere in between. We can have a negotiation. But again, you can be party to that negotiation if you understand the other viewpoint very well, right? So I think so the first thing I said was that you should have confidence that your ideas are not stupid, and those confidence will come from implementing some of your ideas someplace. The second is that, when you do want to share your ideas with people, it's a good idea to first have some people who can give you good feedback why somebody may not like this idea. Do your research, get your homework done, get data, and be really well prepared when you talk to a larger group. That's how I will go about it. It's never a good idea to think that I am the sole repository of all wisdom and everybody else doesn't understand.
Yeah.
That attitude will not take you far. And, even if you think like that, if the others say, yeah, okay, think of us as bad people, but we are not letting it happen anyway. So what have you gained? Right?
Yeah.
And indeed, there can be nobody who can be, sole repository of all wisdom. I mean, there are other people have their own experiences, and you have to value those experiences. And that's what I think, to some extent, teamwork is all about. You need to convince people. You need to have good communication skills, good homework, good teamwork. Hopefully, things will be done. So don't make yourself anti-popular. Just say, look, I have ideas which I want to project. And
so I think homework is really important before presenting any idea. So that is one thing police, although all our courses has some sort of presentation, but focus is always to just finish it and go away. So I think, that's important to do homework and do all the research. So one more question, I think this is primarily only came from student, I would say. It is about, question was like, how to learn these skills with all those academic loads. In some sense, one soft skills is really important here, probably is the time management. But what's your take? I know you have a different view, probably have a different view on this point. I just want you to share your thoughts.
Right. So I think, you rightly said, time management is really the crux of college life. Okay. When I was at IIIT Delhi, we used to talk to students a lot about, how much time do they put in academics, right? Every semester we would have this survey done from people who are, and we'll divide them into different departments, different years, different semesters, and different CGPA, etc., etc. And what we noticed was that people, if you look at who are good at academics, they would say we spend about 35 to 40 hours a week on academics. And this includes classes and labs, right?
Wow.
So classes and labs itself is about 15 to 20 hours a week, right? The amount of work that you're doing outside the classes and labs is only about 15, 20 hours a week. And this is like the top students. Okay? If you look at people who are getting D's and F's, they will say we spend about 20 hours a week. And 20 hours a week is just my contact hours. So essentially what they're saying is, I do nothing outside the classroom and labs. Right? But if you look at the top people who are saying, I do spend 15, 20 hours a week outside the classes and labs. Now, can they really say that we don't have time for extracurricular or learning soft skills or doing interesting things? And again, we had these sessions with students where we advise them and mentor them and so on. And my take was always, look, you have 24 hours in a day. You need about 10 hours a day for the minimum emergency things. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to take baths and stuff like that. So that's about 10 hours a day. You have discretionary time of about 14 hours, right? That means about 100 hours a week is the time that you have. Now, college expectation is that you will spend about 50 hours on academics. You're not doing that anyway, but our expectation is you're spending about 50 hours on academics. You still are left with 50 hours. I think 50 hours a week is good enough time to do all the partying that you want to do, have a beer once in a while, go to movies, restaurants, go on a date, and still have some time left for some extracurricular things, part of some clubs, a part of some society, just read a book, or whatever. So I think if you can manage your time well, and remember, this is only during the semester. Outside the semester, which is itself is 4 months, you have all 100 hours to yourself, right? At least after first and second year. After second year, some people will do internship. But after first year, it's typically you do nothing, right? So I would never say that time is an issue. It's really the time management which is an issue, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's why I said, one of the workshop I would definitely like, I don't remember whether Gandhinagar has that in the first 5 weeks. We definitely have that workshop here as well as we had this in IIT Delhi, a workshop on time management. As soon as you enter college, there should be a workshop on time management. I think what is really happening today is somehow the social media and things like that are so addictive, right? People will watch YouTube or be on Facebook or Instagram for hours together, right? In fact, in some of our surveys in IIT, also it was pointed out that they will spend almost like 20 hours on these social media, right? So if you are spending that kind of time on social media, then of course you would not have time for all the useful things. And I'm not saying don't spend time on social media. I'm saying you have enough time to do everything, but enough time to do everything in reasonable doses. You don't have enough time to do infinite things of any kind. Right? So I now what kind of things people should do? One needs to look at 2 or 3 things. One is what do you want to learn in terms of soft skills, right? So for example, I said when I joined, I really wanted to be good at language because that was my weak point. Somebody else could say, I want to be learning leadership and, or I want to be able to work in teams. I am very afraid of working in teams. I want to, So I think one is really say that this is what you want to learn. And secondly, what is your passion outside the academics, right? Because many of these things can be learned through a variety of ways. I mean, teamwork, any club will teach you teamwork. You just have to join a club.
Yeah, right.
Drama or dance or music or programming or whatever. I mean, you do a project together, you are working in a team. I mean, there could be some things that you do in groups of just 2 or 3. I mean, if you really want to learn teamwork and leadership, that's probably too small a group to work in. But most of the things that student activities will involve a lot more people. And therefore, just get involved with what is your interest in terms of clubs and societies. So suppose, like many people in first year are very afraid of sitting in front of computer. I mean, other than social media, like programming is what I'm talking about, right? I would say join programming club because that's going to force you to, they will also tell you, I'm sure your seniors can tell you, these are the websites that you can go to and do self-learning. These are the places where you can participate in some contests, and so on and so forth, right? There could be certain, and it's perfectly all right to not know what you want. Okay, that's right. Another thing is like people say, I don't know my passion, I don't know what what I really want to achieve and so on and so forth. It's okay. I think if you just do variety of things, you will imbibe some of those things without you knowing that you're imbibing some of those things.
Right.
I mean, for example, when I started this reading room, it was really, I wanted to read newspapers. And I wanted to be somewhat useful to the hostel, right? I didn't think that this is going to make me somebody who understands money very well. And, after reading room experience for the remaining 3 years of my life in IIT Kanpur, I was accounts coordinator in every committee. I felt that I know money much better than them, right?
Yes.
It wasn't the intention, but it happens. It's okay, right? And I think I learned a lot of leadership. So that wasn't the intention. It's perfectly fine to say I want to enjoy life and I want to do a variety of things in college. College is not just to focus on this is what I'm missing at. I'm going to do this. So if you know what you're missing, you know what your passion is, great. If you don't know, don't bother. Just do a variety of things. Just do interesting things, and make sure that you don't waste too much time on one thing. I'm not. I may be appearing as anti-social media. I'm myself very, very active on social media. I don't consider social media as bad, but it's just that don't spend 20 hours a week on social media.
Right, agree. So I think, yes, I think this is very important point, the time management, and sometimes we spend more time on social media and start blaming to our courses and everything. But I think as you mentioned, see, coming back to the courses, so what I learned from so I'm engaged with this competitiveness mindset since last almost 5 years. And the reason I started with, first I joined as a volunteer just for a couple of months. Then I realized, no, this is something very important because as a student, we don't understand. And out of the survey, there are a couple of things which came out very clearly. What are the important things to become a competitive employee, person? And what I realized after graduation, after working for my own startup, a lot of things we learned while going through all the courses, like critical thinking, problem solving, this communication, preparing for the presentation. So when I first I was asked to give a presentation about my startup idea, the first thing came to my mind, यार काश मैं वो thermodynamics का presentation ठीक से दे दिया होता, because I started looking at the links, how to give good presentation and everything. I started critically thinking how to put together everything, which I completely ignored while I was going through the courses. So I think even I would suggest there was one more reason, because professors and the entire system was more oriented toward getting the outcome, just finish the course and blah, blah. But my point is how we can maybe encourage people to critically think, first focus on the problem solving thing, how become more innovative while doing all these core courses. I'm not talking about anything extra. I'm just talking about the core courses, how you can inculcate these things more deeply.
So I think one of the things that happens when somebody joins a college is because there is no proper mentoring and advising from the institute side, the second year students take over that role. And second year students, I'm sure people listening to me here would strongly disagree with me, but second year students are completely the wrong set of people to advise first year students. Okay. In fact, we did this experiment in LNMIT where we had 2 boys hostel, and we said one boys hostel will have first year and third year, and the second boys hostel will have second year and fourth year, right? I tell you, I mean, there was a huge difference in that batch of first year because they were interacting with third year and not second year. Second year students, they really don't have experience. They haven't gone through placement, internship, or whatever, right? They are best only for one little thing. They have the most recent experience of moving from school to college. As long as the discussion is about, settling down in college, second year rights are the best. But for anything future discussion, third and fourth year rights are the best. So one thing we should try to do is how can we get third and fourth year rights to mentor first year students and not second year rights, right? Now in between I've lost the question. What was the question? Can you just repeat the end point?
Yeah, question was how we can use the core courses
View the core courses. Okay, okay, right.
Yeah.
So what I noticed many times is that the second year students will give advice to first year students, which are either that, hey, only CGPA matters, right? Because the companies are going to, the top companies are going to ask for 8 plus, the middle companies are going to ask for 7 plus, the bad companies are going to ask for 6 plus, and you need to, if you want to really go for high placement, then 8 plus is necessary, for which you only have to study, do nothing else, etc., etc. Right? On the other hand, the second yearites would also point out that, look, if you, the only thing that matters is soft skills, right? Your CV, right? So there is this dichotomy that happens. I mean, some set of students will believe one and some set of students will believe the other, right? The fact of the matter is, irrespective of whether you believe CGPA or whether you believe soft skills, doing courses well should be the agenda for both sides. Because courses are not just about CGPA, about exam, about whatever. In each course, you are learning skills which are more towards soft skill side as well. So you may be learning some, of the equations and programming and design and all those things, but you are also learning presentations. You're also learning critical thinking. And one of the things you said, how do we learn critical thinking? I think there are certain courses which are better at it. It really depends on the instructor in most of the courses, what kind of assignments they give you, what kind of projects they give you, what kind of, so a lot of reading is necessary for critical thinking, right? For problem solving, I mean, if I'm going to get a question paper, whether it is quiz or midsem or endsem, which is directly a question from the book, then I'm not interested, I'm not going to learn problem solving, right? Because I'm only going to learn how to cram answers to certain questions, right? So I think it really depends on instructors, and I'm assuming, we have good teachers and we're talking about good institutions where, so doing core courses helps you not just in so-called hard skills, but they also help you in soft skills. However, the teacher is very, very important. For example, you said we are in a hurry and the presentations are made just like and so on. My philosophy in my courses has been, and particularly if there's a small class, I will have presentations, that if I'm asking somebody to give a 15-minute presentation, right? Heavens are not going to fall if I take 16 minutes instead. So I'm going to use this last 1 minute in giving a feedback to this person, and I will encourage my class to give a feedback, right? I said, whatever feedback the class is giving is not going to impact the marks you get for this presentation, right? It's not that, so everybody has to say the presentation was great. You can get some very obvious things stated by your own colleagues. The other thing I always encourage my students is that if it is important presentation, then why don't you give a presentation to your roommate in the hostel first before coming to the class? 90% of the issues will get resolved there itself. If you don't want it to your student, to your roommate or wingmate, just give it to yourself. In the sense that you give a presentation and have your phone record you and just listen to that yourself, right? I think that itself is going to tell you where you are going wrong. Okay? Just listening to yourself. Frankly, after these webinars and these kinds of discussions, I don't go back to YouTube to listen to this because I know I sound horrible in many of these things. Some days I'm good, but many days I'm bad. So so I've reached the point where I say, I don't want to learn better communication skills. But earlier, when I did want to improve myself, I would go back and listen to everything and say, this is the point I should improve on, right? So I think it's, so overall, I think to summarize, take your core courses seriously because they're not just giving you hard skills, but they're giving you soft skills as well. It depends a lot on instructor, how he or she manages the course, on how successful you will be in learning soft skills through them. For example, presentations, if they're not giving you any feedback, you're probably not going to learn much. You're going to learn a lot if there are 10 people giving presentation. For each 10 people, if he or she is giving feedback, then this is what I should have done and not done, right? It's not a question of that some companies are only going to look at hard skills and some companies are only going to look at soft skills. Every company is going to look at combination of them. In fact, companies which are going to come for even like a non-technical job, the non-core job as we call it, even they would want to know how have you done in your academics, because that's a parameter of how will you done in anything, right? So take everything seriously. You are here to study, and there is enough time to do enjoyment.
Right, right. No, I think yeah, that's right. I think core courses only they only not teach the core skills, but also soft skills, which I personally realized after my graduation. So one more question, I think you mentioned uh, starting of the this session as well about having patience. Uh, when we conducted this survey, I was in fourth year last semester, and when I saw this perseverance is one of the top 5 pillars which are important to become a competitive or maybe to develop the leadership skills, I was surprised why, because I never thought about that having patience is a good this thing, uh, good I would say soft skill, and I was surprised. But as a BTech student, it is always like if I'm starting some project in this semester, I'll finish in this semester only. There is no possibility to carry this project next semester. So my question, and when I joined my company Mojo Networks, I realized to crack a big deal or maybe some big project, it takes more than a year. It is not like you are starting today and you will close it today. So even in the corporate life, it is very important. If you are working on a big project, it will take time, and you have to have patience. You have to have perseverance. So my question is, can we think about some project, right, which is starting maybe in first year and deadline will be fourth year, so just to develop this one skill set among the students.
No, I think it would be great if we can do that. Uh, it could be a little difficult to do it formally as part of the curriculum. Uh, you know, who is the faculty member who guides, supervises such a project throughout the 8 semesters? Uh, but I think what really should happen is through these student clubs. And I know some of these clubs do that. For example, the club that we have a club which makes automobile. Right? Now, so you join that in first year. In first year, you will be told to do some trivial things. You're really just getting your hands dirty. But from second year onwards, you're designing stuff, you're experimenting, you're manufacturing, or you're all kinds of things, right? So that's a project that goes on for 4 years because it's kind of continuous, right? And you're working in a large team. You're working with people from different years who have different levels of knowledge in that sphere. So I think doing that as an extracurricular or co-curricular is going to be much simpler, much easier to handle than doing it as part of the curriculum. Part of the curriculum, how will you? There are these unimportant issues that become important in curriculum. How would you grade it? Who is going to guide it? If the person, for 4 years, can you really leave it to a single faculty member? What if that faculty member takes leave in between or resigns, retires, or whatever? I think those are the kind of issues that you will face in a formal setup. So informal setup, if for example, why don't we start a large programming project in computer science? Think of, I want to implement a blockchain or something, right? Maybe a new browser or some big thing, right?
Right.
And, or I'm going to automate this campus, which could be next 20-year project, right?
Right. Right.
So the people come in the first year, go out at the fourth year, and the new people keep coming in, new ideas keep coming in. And I think that's how I would say. But your idea that there should be something which is continuing,
Right.
very important. It does tell you the value of patience. And the value of patience doesn't come just by looking at, okay, this is a large project and going to be becoming useful after 2 years or 3 years. The value of patience is also that today I have a new idea, but my team says no to it. I think that is really the patience is much, much more important. That, hey, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm going to, if I say this is very important, let's build this. And everybody else says, sorry, this is not a great idea. Can I come read more about it? Can I convince again in the next meeting? Can I come back after 2 months and say, hey, I read more about it and there is additional information? Can I even make a small prototype of it myself in a much smaller team and then show it to them? Look, this prototype works. So it could be months before I am able to convince my team that this is an important idea that they should, think think about it. So patience actually comes from that perspective. Like, I'm itching to do something and people don't do it. And after 2-3 months, finally they agree. But one should also kind of be humble enough to realize after 2-3 months that if so many people are saying that it is not a good idea, then maybe there has to be a time at which I should say, yes, okay, now I give up, right?
Right.
You shouldn't give up too early, but you shouldn't give up too late.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think looking at the time, just I think two questions I will ask. One question many people ask, it is about NEP, new education policy, this inclusion of all soft skills, and there is a focus on this soft skills, vocational training aspect also. So what is, if I'll ask maybe as a director of PSC, what is one action you will take under this new policy, maybe low hanging fruit or one thing you will probably take?
Yeah. So I think look, policies don't change anything. That's my this thing, right?
I agree. Yes.
If there was anything, we suppose I have a good idea today before NEP. What is it that NEP allows me to do? Did I not have autonomy to do that thing yesterday? Right. So my feeling is that these policies are meant for colleges which are simply saying whatever government orders me to do, I'll do that. So yes, now government will make a slightly different order than what it was doing earlier, right? These policies have really no impact on quality institutions which were anyway thinking of excellence, which were anyway trying to do new things and so on. So nothing as a result of this policy, right? In terms of soft skills anyway, I think PEC particularly has always given a huge focus on extracurriculars. Our students have been going to a lot of college competitions, both in sports as well as in culture, and winning all kinds of prizes. I mean, our drama team, for example, is really considered for a very long time. I mean, in fact, our alumni have also done great things in this. So we have been very proactively supporting student clubs and societies, and we'll continue to do that. In fact, even online right now, our clubs are very active, right? I mean, I see that they have a dance competition where, okay, instead of a competition having in an auditorium, now you do the dance in your own, share it with others, and some bunch of judges will decide who is the best, right? So they have not stopped anything. I mean, everything is going on, right? So we are really blessed in terms of a culture that supports. In fact, I can tell you when I joined this place last year, my wife had certain questions about schools and for my son and all that, and we invited a few students first year students to ask them what kind of coaching, etc. And my wife said, look, talking to these bunch of students was so nice compared to even IIT students who would be able to communicate so well, right? So I think we have this culture which puts a lot of focus. In fact, we have 2 credits exclusively for participating in clubs or societies.
Wow, interesting.
I mean, there's just two credits out of 168 is not a big deal. It doesn't make too much of a difference on a CGP or whatever. But the fact that we actually give credit for this shows that how valuable we think these things are.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. I never heard this credit for joining club. I would have talked anyway. Yeah, so I would say just last question before wrapping up the session. We discuss a lot about soft skills and everything. Can you give one example where you have seen this like a person is become very successful because of the soft skills as well? Who learned everything and become a successful person, maybe recent alumni from PEC or some of your colleague, anybody?
Well, Akash, I think you can answer that much better. You know how in 2011 and how you are today. I mean, 9 years, how much you have changed. Uh, it's an amazing story. I think one day I hope that there will be a movie biopic on Akash Keshav.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Uh, but I think you will look at other people. You know, your director Sudhir Jain,
Yes, yeah.
from a very humble background, Hindi-speaking schools, small town UP, and all that. And today he is what he is because of soft skills.
Right.
I mean, none of his earthquake engineering is helping him run IIT Gandhinagar.
Right. True. Right.
But critical thinking, problem solving, communication, his interpersonal skills, his confidence, his perseverance. I mean, these are the things which has really made IIT Gandhinagar what it is. So we have these two examples right away.
Thanks, sir. So thanks a lot, sir, for your time. And it was really interesting. I wish I could maybe extend for 30 more minutes, but maybe we'll have another session of the second, because there are a lot of questions I couldn't ask you, which came from the audience. But before closing the session, I just would like to acknowledge all the people who work really hard behind the scenes. And so these are the people I would say. So when first shared this idea with Bharg and Prerna, I was not very sure whether we should do it or not. And they were like, they asked, instead of answering the question, they asked why not, why we should not do it. So I'm really glad. And these people were working day and night with their academics and everything. And they made sure there should be registration form. Everything should be done professionally. So I'm really thankful all of them. And I hope they will continue supporting me in future activities also. All of them from IIT Gandhinagar. And if any of the students interested in associating with CMI or any of activities we are doing, you can drop a mail to Bharg, Arpita, or any of us, and we will definitely explore the possibility to engage you in the future activities.